I'm Natalie from Namaste Farms, and I'm going to teach you about what to do with your yarn once you take it off of the bobbin. First of all, you want to measure your yarn, and I use, and most everybody does, a nitty knotty. And this one happens to be 1.5 foot nitty knotty, and what will happen is one full loop around it is an entire yard. And so that means that one side of I'll be able to count just one side of my yarn, like in this skein, and this side will tell me how many yards, and then I just multiply it by 2, because obviously you have to count the other side. I love this one, and I broke the dowel on one side, and I'm really mad. You're never supposed to pull your yarn off of the dowel, you're supposed to take the dowel out, and after like years of doing that, I finally couldn't take it anymore, it just broke. So I usually use a pencil on the other side, which is awesome, except I have 5 kids that are in school, and so I can never find a pencil. So then I figured out a chopstick works. So I use a chopstick, you won't. You'll use a dowel, and you won't do what I did. So here it is on my bobbin. Here, I'll turn this. And this is just some yarn that was left over from a batch I made for Yarn Market. And so I'm going to show you how I do it. I just hold it one side. And it actually doesn't look like it takes much thought, and it doesn't anymore for me, but believe me, you can really, if you twist it or you cross it, it won't be in an even, nice skein, and it'll be hard to ball, to put into a ball. I actually have a Swift, which is one of those things that looks like a windmill, and then you put your skein on it. You know, you see it in the yarn stores, and then you can use the ball winder. I don't use a ball winder. I actually do all my balls by hand. That sounds kind of strange, but anyway, that's what I do. My mom taught me to do that when I was little, and it's just, I don't like the way the square center pull balls look, so I just don't do it that way. Do it by hand. Maybe it's kind of old-fashioned. Okay, so this is just sort of a mishmash of stuff, but this is the general idea. You know, I pulled off the leader on here on accident, but what you're going to want to do is once you pull off your yarn off of the off of the bobbin, you're going to want to have 2 sides meet. Your 2 sides meet like this. You don't want to have one side over here and one side over here and then not be able to tie them, because you want to tie your ends. I learned this from Trish Anderson. She's kind of a famous gal in the fiber festivals. Very funny, very, very smart. She's always at Black Sheep Gathering. She is the commentator for the Woman's Lead, which is sort of it's like a show where women, they prepare all year for it. You like have to lead your animal that made your garment. And then, you know, you've usually spun your own yarn, and then you've knit your own garment. And then that night at 8 o'clock, after everybody's had a bunch of beers, it's awesome, then you lead your animal through the ring. And there's like sometimes, you know, between 20 and 40 competitors. And one year I took second, and I actually was joking. I went in there as a joke, and I got second. I was pretty like stoked. Of just one of my little scarves. And here these women had these phenomenal like felted vests and all kinds of things. But I was, let me tell you, second. I honestly thought they called the wrong name. Okay, so here we are. This is what it would end up like. And I have this one end that's tied. And before I do anything else, because if I drop a piece, it's going to be a nightmare, I take my 2 little ends right here with from the bow, from tying it together, and I just wrap it around one side completely. And this is my own thing. I don't know who else does this, and this is something that Trish did not tell me to do, but I have to because I don't want to lose track of my sides and end up having, you know, one side on you know, over where it's not supposed to be. There we go. And see, I might have already done that. Ooh. Nope, I didn't. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to full it. And fulling, according to Trish, is extremely important, and it is, especially if you don't want your yarn to shed on you. And some of my yarns, like this one, I kind of like that it sheds. I think it's cool, and I don't full it because fulling kind of felts these little hairs close to the yarn. So I know some of you are thinking, why does my yarn always shed? Well, probably you don't full it. So most of us know that what happens with felting is it's change of temperature, agitation, and soap. And so based on those principles, that's what I'm going to do to my yarn. So I go to my sink, and I have extremely hot water in here. I'm telling you, this is so incredibly hot. We have our hot water heater turned up as high as we possibly can. The reason I do that is I don't want any of my colors to bleed, because I don't want people to wash my yarn in hot water and then have all this dye in the sink, or have it bleed on their white t-shirt. And I wear a lot of white, so I don't think I've ever sold anything that's not color fast in hot water, even my reds. Okay, so I'm going to do this. It's in very hot water. Oh my, I mean, literally it's scalding my hands. But this is how much I love you. I'm gonna burn my hands just for you. Okay, now I'm gonna turn on over to cold water. Really, really cold. I'm gonna get it cold. And it had soap in there. I put some Dawn in there. I use Dawn for everything. Good enough for pelicans, good enough for me. Okay, now I've done that. I've like shocked it with the change of temperature, right? Soap, change of temperature. Now, what I'm gonna do next, you're gonna think I'm kidding, and I'm not. And I'm not gonna laugh at you when you do, because this is what you have to do. If you want your yarns to not shed, come on out here. So I walk outside, and I find a flat surface. Now, Trish told me that this is what Trish says to do, I'm telling you, and it works. And I hit it. And this further shocks it. Okay? And now, it also releases some of the tension. It'll release the tension, so if you have something overspun, it'll kind of, I don't know, it makes it let go. Then I'm going to bring it over here, and this is where I hang all my yarns. Every single yarn or skein that I sell has been hung out here to dry in the beautiful California sunshine. So I hang it right here, and I let it dry. And see how it's doing that? It has this little twist. It's not so perfect. I'll take this bird feeder, I have this hummingbird feeder, and I hang it. There you go. Okay, so now I'm going to take you inside and show you what to do once it's dry. I have a skein in there that dried a little while ago, and it actually is out of this fleece. Look at this. It's so gorgeous. I mean, if you could touch this and smell. I put Aveda oils in my stuff, and so personally, I think it's amazing. I mean, Aveda didn't get famous for nothing. It's all off their fragrances. What this is mohair and Wensleydale. The Wensleydale locks, you can see, I dyed them together. I just dye all my fibers together. You know, I don't think, you know, oh, it's mohair, I can't mix it with Wensleydale. This is, if my yarn's gonna end up being this blend, that's how I dye it. I want it all to look similar, right? I don't want it to come out different, and then, unless, you know, I mean, sometimes I do, but you know, I want the pot, oh my God, it's so incredibly soft, to have, you know, fibers in it that I'm gonna use together. Want them to be together. And then, oddly enough, Wensleydale and mohair underneath the microscope are almost identical. And this one was the same dye pot too. Awesome, I love it. Chartreuse, one of my favorite colors. Here's my dogs. One was just recently neutered. He's not feeling very well. Okay, come on in. Okay, can't let the flies in. Okay, so here we are. Okay, love this. Just made it for Yarn Market. It's the fleece that you saw outside. And it's spun with these little glass skulls. So what I'm going to do is I'll put this over on a granite countertop to show you, because it'll probably be easier to see. I'm going to lay my yarn out, and especially if I was going to show it, I would pull it straight, and I'm going to find 4 places where I'm going to do a figure 8 knot. I love to use Hannah silk. So I'm going to split it in the middle. I'm going to bring this, and I'm going to cross it so it's like an 8. If you're showing your yarn, don't tie a death knot where the judge can't undo it. I actually saw someone get marked down for that. It was on the comment card. And judge said, could not remove figure 8 knots. And they were marked down. So that's not what you're doing. You're just making it just tight enough, because the judge is going to take them all off. And if I was going to show this yarn, I would do 4 figure 8 knots. These 2, and then 2 more on the other end. Showing your yarn is fun because you don't actually have to be there. You can just send it in. And a lot of the fiber festivals, like Maryland, you know, Maryland Sheep and Wool, they have one, Black Sheep Gathering. They have a show where you can send your yarn in. And actually, I still think that Oregon Flock and Fiber, one of my favorite shows, does too. And you can see so many talented artists there. It's really inspiring. Then this is exactly what I do. Then I twist it, and then I let it fold back on itself. Try and make it look even. And this is how I would show my yarn. I would make sure that my figure 8 knots looked all pretty with the ends hanging down nicely. There you go. And then usually they want you to knit a swatch and hang it off the side with the card of how you did it and what your fibers are best suited for and what your intended use is, etc. They want to know that you know what the stuff you work with is used for. So there you go. So anyway, if there's any questions that you have on anything that I've talked about today, feel free to email me. I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Ravelry. You may find my yarns at yarnmarket.com, and I am absolutely, let me tell you, thrilled to answer questions for you. So please contact me. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Happy knitting.